When Kim first came to me with the original thoughts of the design and how she envisioned the story kind of unfolding, or the things in the story that she was interested in developing or exploring, of course, party time was in there. So the idea of a party, of these people showing up lavishly dressed, ready for this amazing occasion, but then them kind of unraveling as the story goes on, and as people, get more wild in a party, have some side of that happen, and in essence bring out their wild sides on the end, so their party animal. And Kim also proposed that she was interested in playing in the 20s and 30s and having this very older feel, even tonality wise, like all playing with grayscale and playing with sepia and browns and golds and all the richness of those tones. And bringing in also a pinch of the surreal, a pinch of the era of the 20s that had the kind of Dali influence and the influences of a dynamic, larger than life, surrealist feel. So with all of that lovely information, I went away and I started contemplating what could these people be, and knowing that each of them had an inner character that we would discover how I can influence the first part of Act 1, seeing them as how they're showing up and how they're presenting themselves, and then how that can be unearthed and delved into in a different way in the second act, where they become more revealed as their inner creatures. So yeah, we played a lot with the tones of black and white and creams, and played more into the sepias and the warmer tones of that, so not too much into cool grays. And one of the ways I was really interested in playing with that is how can we bring in a lot of texture and to create depth and a lavishness into these tones so they don't all feel so flat, and bringing in details that really speak to these characters that just might be tiny glimmers of their inner beings as we learn about them and discover their relationships in the show. So everybody has a very distinct look to them, and tried not to cross-section them into other people. But the Act 1 largely has their full look, and in Act 2 we're down to kind of the bare bones of what their characters are and letting a lot of skin speak, as one would say. There's so much detail that has gone in tiny glimmers of thoughtfulness into each of the characters, that it's kind of a bit of a I Spy of what can you find that gives you clues, or how does this one speak to another. And I think it's just a feast of texture and a feast of a very delicious palette, in my opinion. And so I think if there's something to take away, it's just being inspired by kind of the beauty of the small things and how things in relationship to each other are able to sing. The goal is to just have as much fun through the process in making it, and know that the more love you put in, the more that people can see through it. So I'd say definitely the aspiration is just to, be very content with what's the final product, and know that it's also not necessarily the finished piece, because you need everything else you need the dancers and you need the music to make it what it is. So it's always nice to see how those marry. It's a show that may be interesting to see multiple times. It may be a show that you learn or you see different snippets of, because there's so much happening and there's a lot of beauty nestled in it that, I know that we see it a million times because we're working on it, but I know that when I get to the part of the show opening, there's still things I notice that I didn't notice before, and it's always such a beautiful process to see how a show evolves from the beginning of the process to opening to closing, and any life it has after that.